She said motherhood made her whole. But what if she was never a mother to begin with? The moment the headline dropped, silence fell across the room. Not outrage, not even disbelief. Just silence, the kind that crawls up the spine and sits there. The kind that whispers, you knew. You just didn't want to believe it. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. She is not a mom. Those 4 words, uttered by a voice no one expected, and backed, this time, not by gossip or speculation, but by a document. What if that entire moment was choreographed? I know, it sounds unthinkable, distasteful, even. But before you close the tab, before you dismiss this as yet another echo in the never-ending chamber of royal conspiracies, pause. Breathe. Because something's changed. This isn't coming from Twitter. It's not some anonymous thread on Reddit. This time, it's Lady Colin Campbell, the woman who, love her or loathe her, has never whispered a secret without consequences. And this time, she didn't whisper. She leaked a classified document, allegedly linked to an adoption agency with ties to private clients across Europe and South America. A document labeled C-89, Custodial Authorization for Minor Placement. The child's pseudonym? Archwell. And the signature? We'll get to that. But first, let's rewind the lens. Not to the birth, but to the build-up. Let's retrace the steps, the speeches, the silences, the contradictions. Because if this story is what it appears to be, if this document is what it claims, then everything changes. Not just for Meghan Markle, but for Prince Harry, for the monarchy, and perhaps, most of all, for the child at the center of it all. Because what do we do with a crown so obsessed with bloodlines when the blood no longer matches? This isn't about judgment. This is about truth. And truth, in this case, comes at a cost. Let's begin. The world met Archie Harrison on a quiet spring morning in May 2019. He was bundled in white, held tightly between a smiling Prince Harry and a beaming Meghan Markle, dressed in ivory, her face glowing. Though some noticed the tension in her smile. The cameras clicked. Reporters murmured soft questions. Harry made jokes about sleepless nights and diaper duty. Meghan looked down at the baby, then back at the crowd. It's magic, she whispered. But was it real? Even then, subtle things didn't add up. The timeline between the announced due date and the birth was off. Reports swirled that the baby had arrived days before the palace confirmed anything. Meghan hadn't been seen entering or leaving any hospital. No confirmed OBGYN report. No photographs. No witnesses, not even of a security convoy. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then came the certificate, filed strangely late. Meghan's occupation, Princess of the United Kingdom. Harry's, Prince of the United Kingdom. But the line for mother's birthplace was incorrect. The formatting? Off. Experts raised their eyebrows. Some birth registration officials said they'd never seen anything quite like it. But the mainstream media looked away, labeled it conspiratorial nonsense. The narrative was set. This was a joyful, modern royal birth. Period. Critics were silenced, sometimes aggressively. A few independent journalists had their social media accounts suspended. One prominent blogger, who claimed to have court evidence suggesting Meghan never gave birth in the UK, vanished from the platform entirely. We were told to move on, and most people did, until Lady C spoke up. Or rather, until she stopped speaking, and that's when everything shifted. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Lady Colin Campbell, understand this. She's not just another royal biographer. She's aristocracy herself, a lightning rod for controversy, but also someone with real access. When she began teasing a revelation involving Meghan's maternal claims, it wasn't taken lightly in certain circles. And yet, she vanished. 3 scheduled interviews. Cancelled. A BBC radio spot. Pulled. A podcast appearance. Postponed indefinitely. Her team gave vague reasons. Scheduling issues. Unforeseen delays. But behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. She's being silenced, one source said. Or she's negotiating. The next thing we knew, an envelope showed up at a London newsroom. Unmarked. Handwritten address. Stamped from Los Angeles. Inside it, a single document. Stamped confidential. With it, a note. Not signed. Just one sentence. She is not a mom. It was chilling. Brazen. Unbelievable. And then the journalists began to read that document. if authentic, suggested something no royal watcher ever wanted to hear: that Archie Harrison was not born to Meghan Markle. That a private agreement was signed months before his public arrival. The file detailed a surrogate carrier, a sealed court approval, an overseas intermediary, and most damning of all, a clause allegedly restricting any mention of maternal origin until the child turned 18. Unless that record was leaked. Which brings us to now. Let me ask you something. Why would anyone go to this length to conceal the origins of a child? Pride? Privacy? Or narrative control? Meghan Markle has built her identity, her image, her entire post-royal brand around the idea of motherhood. She speaks of it as her reason for waking up. She's spoken on stages from New York to Johannesburg, telling crowds about the challenges of breastfeeding, of diaper changing, of postpartum vulnerability. She told Oprah, "I just wanted to protect my baby." But what if that baby was never hers biologically? What if she was protecting something else entirely? Let me be clear. This is not an indictment of adoption, not in the slightest. Millions of mothers raised children born from other wombs with fierce, immeasurable love. And some of the most powerful family bonds come not from biology, but from choice. But that's not what's on trial here. What's on trial is the lie, the presentation, the idea that a biological truth was paraded around as reality when it may not have been. And if that's the case, who else knew? Harry? Charles? The Queen? The institution? The media? Or just Meghan? And if Meghan orchestrated this alone, what does that say about her power? And if she didn't, what does that say about everyone else? These are the questions that ripple beneath the surface of this leak. Because this isn't just about one woman, one child, or one signature. It's about the very idea of what the royal family is meant to represent. Bloodline, lineage, heritage. Because let's not forget, Archie was seventh in line to the throne at birth. His position, however symbolic, meant something. His lineage was supposed to be traced, recorded, preserved. So if that chain was broken, if the birth never happened, if adoption was the reality, then someone, somewhere, made a very serious decision to conceal the truth. Why? Let's go back to that moment. May 8th, 2019. The press gathered in St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle. Harry and Meghan step forward. Harry says, "It's been the most amazing experience I could ever possibly imagine." He grins. He cradles Archie. He thanks the midwives. But he never mentions a hospital. He never mentions labor. And Meghan? She doesn't speak much. She says only, "It's magic. It's pretty amazing. I have the two best guys in the world." She never says, "I gave birth." She never says, "The labor was long," or "We're exhausted." It was odd, sweet, but vague. Now, in hindsight, perhaps too vague. And if you dig back through media footage, you'll notice something else. There are no images of Meghan leaving a hospital with a newborn. No video of arriving or departing. No statements from attending doctors. No nurses stepping forward to say they assisted the Duchess. No hospital staff photographed in front of the Lindo wing with balloons. Nothing. Just a sudden announcement. Then a photo op. Then silence. Until now. So, where does this leave us? We're staring down the barrel of something that has been hiding in plain sight for years. A mystery no one dared to touch, until someone did. And in the center of it, a child, a document, and a woman now allegedly in tears after her truth, if it was hers, has been dragged into the light. Meghan Markle has not responded publicly. Harry has not commented. But Lady C has more to say. And the document? It's not the only one. Because as we speak, whispers are growing about a second file. One that may not just confirm adoption, but also reveal the origin. And what came next would change everything. No one saw it coming. Did she know the backlash would be this brutal? Or was she warned? Either way, Lady Colin Campbell didn't flinch. She vanished. Not quietly. Not naturally. This was something else. This was surgical silence. And that silence, it said more than words ever could. She had spent the better part of a decade unapologetically airing royal secrets. Naming names. Crossing lines others tiptoed around. But the night before the leak, just hours before the world would see that adoption document, she went dark. No tweets, no podcasts, no press column, no final quote to frame the chaos she was about to unleash. That's not how Lady C operates. So what exactly happened that night? Let's trace it, frame by frame. Because the quiet is where the truth started screaming. It began with a cancellation. A small evening panel discussion in West London. Nothing major. Just a heritage talk show for older audiences. She was scheduled as the closing guest. Not controversial. Not political. Harmless, really. Lady C never showed. Producers tried to call. Then texted. Then called again. No response. At 6:42 p.m., a message came in from her assistant. Apologies. Lady C is unwell and has been advised to rest. No interviews for the next 48 hours. No exceptions. The phrasing was unusual. No interviews. No exceptions. Almost contractual. As if legal counsel had crafted it. And that was just the beginning. Because by 7:15 p.m., she had pulled out of 2 more scheduled engagements. One, an online live broadcast for her growing YouTube channel. The second, a private interview with a foreign journalist who had flown in from Canada specifically to ask one question. Is Meghan really Archie's mother? That interview never happened. The journalist, who remained anonymous, later posted a cryptic message on X, formerly Twitter. Lady C didn't cancel. Lady C was cancelled. Something scared her. That much I know. But what could scare someone like Lady Colin Campbell? A woman who publicly called Meghan Markle a liar on national TV, repeatedly. A woman who claimed to have seen sealed palace memos. Who once said Diana would have warned Harry if she were alive. This wasn't stage fright. This was different. And then, after hours of radio silence, her housekeeper was spotted rushing from the gatehouse of her property in Worthing with 2 brown packages in her arms. She handed them off to a courier van parked discreetly down the road. Not an official Royal Mail van. A private, unmarked vehicle. The destination? Unknown. But the timing? Unmistakable. That package was the leak. Let's pause here. Why wouldn't Lady C release the document herself? She had the following. The platform. The voice. So why the handoff? And why now? Because by the time that package landed on the desk of a mid-tier London newsroom, the newsroom's editor had already been expecting it. Expecting. As if it was part of an arrangement. Or worse, a plan. The file came wrapped in thick brown paper. No return address. No name. Just a postmark out of Los Angeles International Airport, routed through customs under printed material. Inside, 1 piece of paper. 1. A high-resolution scan of what appeared to be an adoption authorization form. Stamped in bold. Confidential, custodial entry C, 89. And tucked in the corner. Handwritten in red ink. 3 words. She is not. She is not what? She is not the mother? She is not the legal guardian? She is not. Meghan? Whatever the full sentence was, it didn't matter. The implication was enough. And the newsroom? They panicked. The editor sat on it for 12 hours. Didn't publish. Didn't even inform legal. He just stared at it. He said later in an interview, "It was the quietest night of my career. And somehow the loudest." But let's rewind again. Back to Lady C. Because here's the thing. She didn't just go silent. She removed herself. Digitally. Physically. Entirely. And her closest circle went with her. That night, her official website, usually updated weekly, froze. Her blog entries disappeared. Her social media team posted a generic placeholder. Lady Colin Campbell is temporarily unavailable. Thank you for your understanding. But no reason given. No health emergency. No family news. Nothing that felt human. It was sterile. Sanitized. Pre-cleared. That kind of messaging doesn't come from a personal assistant. It comes from a lawyer. Or a palace. Or both. And then the strangest part. Her YouTube community tab posted a video that had clearly been filmed days earlier. Titled, "On Meghan's Mysterious Maternity Timeline, a Preview." But at the last second, the thumbnail was changed. The title was blurred. Comments were disabled. The video? A soft, philosophical monologue. Not the bombshell takedown her subscribers expected. She said only, "There are things I know, things I wish I didn't. But I do. And when the time comes, I trust you'll understand why I said what I said." She smiled, then added, "Sometimes, the truth needs a courier." Who was the courier? We still don't know. But we do know this. Lady C never commented on the leak. Not once. Not before. Not after. And that, for someone so notoriously vocal, is almost louder than any statement she could have made. People talk. Rumors fly. One theory. that she was warned by high-ranking legal advisors from the Sussex camp, that she was shown documents, court documents, that outlined potential consequences if she pursued public claims involving the children. Another? That someone within the royal family told her to release the information, but keep her hands clean. In other words, leak it, but don't own it. Either way, the silence was strategic, because the timing of her disappearance aligned precisely with the emergence of the leak. Not days apart, not even hours, minutes, which means Lady C wasn't hiding. She was preparing, positioning herself far enough from the fallout to avoid legal retaliation, but close enough to be undeniably associated with it. Smart, risky, calculated, and unmistakably deliberate. Now, let's consider what wasn't said. Meghan didn't respond. Harry didn't comment. No lawsuit, no denial, no firm statement from a spokesperson. Nothing. Why? Because silence is a weapon. In the PR world, denial can validate. Lawsuits create headlines. But silence chokes the oxygen. It creates unease. It whispers, this isn't worth fighting. Because it's not false. And in the vacuum of noise,